Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Going to spend some time talking to you about you and your business. Got a lot to talk about. I didn't talk about the debates yesterday. We'll get to that later on in the program. Sigmund Kramer, my producer, and I will chat a little bit about that. Plus, we got a lot going on the business front I want to cover. I want to get straight to it by talking about this neat story I saw about business war room simulations for Fortune 100 companies now available for medium enterprises. And we're going to be talking to the CEO of a company that's behind this effort, and it should be an interesting interview. As soon as it caught my attention, because I'm big on how technology and other tools can kind of create a level playing field for businesses of all size. And Bill Hall, he's with this company called Simulation Studios. That's simulationstudios.com. And Bill, glad to have you on the program today. How are you?
I'm doing well, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Kind of give us a little information about yourself and Simulation Studios.
Sure. So Sim Studios is a custom software company that creates business simulations and business war games that are traditionally used within Fortune 500 companies for two primary purposes. For corporate strategy stress testing, which is in the form of a business war game, but probably more commonly it's used for leadership development that is in the form of business simulations. And the reason why I say traditionally in terms of Fortune 500 companies is exactly what you alluded to. We've created a suite of solutions that brings these really valuable tools down to smaller companies. And these companies are looking to create rapid change within their organization or test their corporate strategy or just generally effectively train their employees with highly engaging and applicable tools, which is great for today's generation of employees.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about first of all, how do people get access to the technology?
Yep. So what will usually happen is a senior executive or head of HR or training and development will give us a call. And whether it's leadership development or it's strategy stress testing, they'll give us a call, let us know kind of what they're looking for, and then either we'll recommend kind of an off-the-shelf solution that we've already built or a tailorable solution, which tends to be a lot less expensive than a custom solution. Or if they really are looking for something kind of from a whiteboard, then we'll work with them to create that.
Okay. Is it usually done in a group-type environment with employees, and is it usually done from their own location, or do they go to a different location? Kind of go into that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in most cases, just because of the level of employees that we work with, it's usually done in person. So kind of the process around it usually is that, I'd say 25 or so managers or executives will come in, and we break them up into teams. And those teams are given very similar case studies, and then they actually in real time start competing against each other within the simulation. And the big differentiator is that they're not competing against the computer, which is what most people kind of initially think. They're actually competing against each other. And then they immediately see the results of all their decisions and why which team did what and what the results were and what that effect is both on leadership and the overall business outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do they do it in their own hometown, or do they have to fly out to where you are? Talk about that.
So in most cases, we'll go to, say, their corporate headquarters, and then they'll spend a day or two with us running through the through the business war game, and they love it. It's a lot of fun. They really get fired up during these programs. But in most cases, we go to their location.
When you talk about mid-market, are you talking about mid-market or mid-sized business in general? Kind of give us a size range of availability, obviously on the low end, because anyone bigger than the size you suggest should obviously be even more easily able to do it.
Yeah, that's another great question. So in general, there kind of has to be a initial critical mass of employees. Otherwise, the companies are just too small where it just doesn't become as useful. In general, we say if you have 5,000, maybe 2,500 employees or more, then it becomes useful. Otherwise, the company is small enough where they don't need to worry so much about communicating the corporate strategy or how they get behind the corporate strategy, et cetera, et cetera. So usually 2,500 employees or larger is kind of where we begin to see people come in.
So you mean it in the literal sense when you say mid-market, not medium. It really is true mid-market.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, in a sense, I'd almost call it. I mean, it's a great question because so many people think so many different things about what the definition of mid-market is. But in general, we just see it as 2,500 employees or more. Yeah. Where our kind of smaller size companies usually come in is around 5,000 employees, but we've gotten smaller than that, so it really is across the board.
Mm-hmm. And how long do these procedures last? I mean, kind of give us how it works, if you will.
Sure. So usually, in most cases, we try to advocate a really compressed, very high energy, full 1 day. Some cases, these things can last out, 2 or 3 days of just constant, gaming. But in all of our research, and I actually wrote a book about utilizing sims in games and corporate learning, I'm a strong advocate of a very, very focused, high-intensity 1 day tends to reap the best results because people can stay focused. And one of the tricks is not to let the simulation take over all the messaging of the entire training. And if it becomes too big, it tends to steal the show too much. And so if you really focus in on one very compressed, very solid day, that tends to be the sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of investments typically involved? You don't have to give me exact numbers, but can you kind of give us a sense of that?
Sure. So if you're looking at the, say, the off-the-shelf solution, which is where we come in and we run an existing sim that we've already built previously, and they might run a similar industry but not exactly like theirs, that's remarkably affordable. That's at the kind of traditional per-person training levels in terms of cost. When you get into tailored, it's just a very slight increase because we have to tailor the actual solution, but then the actual training itself is the same price. Once you get into custom, that really is amazingly broad because if we do, say, a 2-hour sim, that's going to be a different investment than, say, a 3-day sim. But in general, we tend to be quite affordable because there's a set of tools that we've written over the past 10-plus years that we can reutilize and bring the cost way down.
All right, Bill Hall, appreciate your time. By the way, it's simstudios.com, correct?
It is, SIM Studios, simstudios.com, and I really appreciate you having me on, Kevin.
You bet. All right, when we come back, we're going to have much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com, and you're listening to The Price of Business.